are the Sony Linkbuds, and they're not your average headset, but also they're not for your average user. So let's take a look and see what makes them good, what makes them bad, and who Sony actually targeted with these headsets to see whether or not you should actually go and buy a pair. Let's get into it. So for the last couple of weeks, I've been using these buds in a whole lot of different situations, as well as on a whole lot of different devices as well, to see how they perform on many different devices and many use cases. So let's first start off with the design, and this is also what makes the Linkbuds so unique, and the obvious first thing that you can see is the hole in the center. Now these are the actual drivers of the Linkbuds, and these rest inside of your ear but also allows you to still be able to hear the outside world, thus linking your world together with your entertainment. This, however, does reduce the bass of these headsets, since you don't actually have a closed-off system where bass can be generated like they usually are with normal headsets. Even though the bass is less with these, you still have a lot of options thanks to the app, with a lot of EQ options to actually make these headsets sound even better. Now, another thing I do want to add at this point is, even though these aren't noise cancelling headsets, due to the fact that there's a gigantic hole to actually let in ambient sound, you still get a lot of background noise reduction, especially if you start listening to music at a medium to a high level, as all of those background noises do drown away and you're still left with not being able to hear your surroundings all that clearly. And then also the Linkbuds do have an adaptive volume control as well, so if it gets noisier in your environment, it does turn up the volume as well, and once it gets a little bit quieter, it does turn that down as well. But of course, this is a setting that you do need to activate, and if it's something that you don't want or don't need, then of course you can just turn that on or off depending on your preference. And this really helps a lot, especially if you're traveling a lot and you don't want to hear too many of the background noises around you. Then you can have that turned on and it will automatically adjust to always have it on a level where you don't really hear everything outside and just the music or whatever it is you're listening to. Now, one downside of the hole is the fact that other people can actually listen to what you're listening to. Even though it's not as clear as you're hearing it, they can still hear it more clearly, since there's actually nothing blocking the sound from leaving your ear canal and actually entering the world. Now, overall, the sound quality for me was really good when I connected to my PC, laptop, and smartphone, but it did, however, lack volume when I tried to use that on the PS5. And just as a little side note, you can't actually connect directly to the PS5, but I also didn't connect directly to my PC as well. I used the same dongle, and on the PS5, it just seemed like there wasn't enough volume for me to play any game at all, as I couldn't really hear anything. And with connected to my PC, it had a lot more volume, even though it was the exact same device. So for now, I do have reason to believe that there isn't enough volume between the dongle, the console, and these, and it really does make it unusable with PlayStation 5 consoles at this point in time from what I've tested. But if you've had any luck connecting these to a PS5 console, please tell me down in the comment section below so we can learn from you. And also, while you're down there, please leave a like and subscribe. It really does help the channel out a lot. And if you like tech reviews, then this is the place for you. Now let's get into some of my favorite features and specs of the Linkbuds to see what makes them really good and what I feel they could have potentially done a little better. So firstly, for me, is the green path that they took with the Linkbuds. And what I mean by that is that the Linkbuds have zero plastic packaging and all of it is made out of paper. The Linkbuds themselves also are made out of recycled plastic, and that for me is really cool and sustainable move, and probably something that not a lot of people might even know or care about. But for me, it was a really cool feature. And with a lot of Sony's products now, they have removed a lot of their plastic packaging, as well as a lot of the plastics on their devices, and even gone with vegan leather opposed to actually using normal leather. Secondly is the size of the actual Linkbuds and the case that they come in. The case of the Linkbuds are about a third of the size of my usual headsets that I used to use before these, which makes it really easy to just pop them in your pocket wherever you go and just have them with you at all times without it being a hassle or without you having to think about, am I really going to be using them? Otherwise, I'm just going to leave them at home instead of actually just taking them with me. Which then leads me to point number 3, and that is the battery life of these units. The battery life of the Linkbuds are amazing. You do get 5.5 hours on the Linkbuds themselves, and then you also get an additional 12 hours on the case itself, meaning that you get around 17.5 to 18 hours of battery life with these, meaning you should be able to last an entire day of work or whatever it is you do, or potentially even 2 or 3 days, depending on how many hours you use them in a day. Another great thing about this is the fact that you can actually charge the case while you're using the headsets, and you don't have to actually plug in the actual headsets to charge them. And then once you're done listening, you can just plug them into the actual case itself, and then they will charge. And Sony does state for every 10 minutes of charge, you do get 90 minutes of listening time. So if you're in a crunch and you really need to listen to something, or you're about to go on a flight, if you have 10-minute charge, it should last you around an hour to 2 hours, depending on your use. Now remember when I said that once you turn the volume up on these Linkbuds, that you actually cut out a lot of the background noise? Well, this next feature is actually really great for situations like this, and that is the ability to remove a headbud and then it actually pauses all of the sound. Now why this is really cool is that even though you're listening to music at a higher level, watching a video, listening to a podcast, whatever it may be, and somebody approaches you, instead of having to look around trying to find your phone or device or having to pause, you can simply just remove one headbud. It pauses, it allows you to actually listen and engage in this conversation, and once you're done, you simply pop it back in and it just resumes the content that you were listening to. Which number one, saves you a lot of time, saves you a lot of effort, and since you remove your headphone anyway because you're going to be talking to someone, it does really make this a whole lot simpler as you just simply remove it, it pauses, you can listen, and once you're done, you just put it back in, back to normal. Other cool features include the splash and sweat-proof IPX4 rating, 360 reality audio for some streaming services, and they sound really good when using them for phone calls, not just for me listening, but for the people who are actually on the call for as well. And then lastly is the area tap feature that allows you to tap in front of your ear either twice or 3 times to do different tasks, and all of that can be controlled via the smartphone app. And it's as simply as selecting the earbud that you want to use, selecting the feature that you want, whether that is play, pause, skip, volume, whatever it is you want to do, you select it, and once you're done, you just save it, and there it is, it's assigned. But this also brings me to my first negative point, and that is the fact that the tap function is really sensitive to when you're eating or talking to people, and it can actually trigger the effect even if you didn't want it to actually trigger. For example, every time I use these headsets while eating, it will always pause, skip, or just change the volume of whatever it is I'm listening to, but at least you can actually turn off the function or just change the actual features that it does, and then of course that just sorts out the problem, but it is still annoying that you still have to do that, and it is so sensitive. Secondly is the fact that the right earbud, if you tap on the earbud itself, opens things like Google Assistant, which once again sometimes do get mistaken with the double tap on the right side. So sometimes if I wanted to skip tracks and double tapped on the right side, it will open the Google Assistant, which would then tell me everything about the weather, traffic updates, when in fact I just wanted to actually skip and not have all of that going on. Now for me, the way I combated that is I set volume controls on the right side, since I don't change the volume all that often, and since I have adaptive volume control, it changes that on the fly anyway. So if I want to skip tracks, I just use the left bud. So just keep that in mind, that if you're going to be getting the Linkbuds, that could also be a problem for you. And then thirdly is the fact that if you have really small ears, that the Linkbuds might not actually fit you. Now when I got these Linkbuds the first day, showed them off to my fiance, and then of course she wanted to try them on as well. Lo and behold, the actual Linkbud didn't fit in her ear. Now she does have really tiny ears, but it could be a problem that you could run into as well, since the Linkbud is a certain size, even though there is this little plastic retainer that keeps it inside of your ear. If the actual Linkbud doesn't fit in your ear, then it doesn't even matter, since it's not going to stay in there and it's just going to keep falling out regardless of whatever you do. Now, I do have to add at this point that probably 98% of you out there watching this video would be fine buying this headset, and the 2% of you that have tiny little ears that it doesn't fit into, maybe you should just look at maybe getting a different headset for you. Now overall, I was really impressed with what the Linkbuds have to offer, and I have to say that they weren't exactly what I was expecting from the other reviews, and they were better than I ever thought they would be. They sound really good, they're really comfortable to wear, and they're actually a little bit better for your ear health as well, since they don't block off your ear canals like normal in-ears do. Now they weren't as transparent as I thought they were gonna be, but at low volumes you still get a lot of transparency. And then if you don't want transparency, of course you can just turn up the volume and it cuts out your background noises as well, which really for me was a pleasant surprise, because I thought they were gonna be really soft. They're not going to have a lot of noise cancelling, but they still do perform really well in those situations. And overall, these are probably my favorite in-ears that I've owned to date. So the question is, should you actually go out and buy these Sony Linkbuds? And for me, at the price, it is really a no-brainer, and they are amazing for what you're going to be paying for them. They connect easily to any device, they have a long battery life, and if you're someone like me that can't wear in-ears for too long or over-ears for too long, then these are amazing as they really sit in there. You kind of almost forget about them over time, and it really doesn't block off your ear canal at all, which would usually, for me at least, lead to irritation. Now, if you want to pick up a pair, I have left links to that down in the description below. Those are affiliate links, so if you make a purchase using those links, it does support the channel, and I really do appreciate it if you make a purchase using those links. And then other ways you can support is by joining members or by simply leaving a like and subscribe. And then, as always, until next time, cheers.